Hello everyone, my name is David Nakkila with iPro Realty and the Your Green Homes real estate team, bringing you another video today. Today we're going to talk about the top 10 things not to do when buying a pre-construction condo, home, townhouse, whatever the case may be. We're going to talk to you about the pitfalls that you want to avoid. Number one of the things not to do when buying a pre-construction condo or house. Don't not research the developer or the builder before you buy the pre-construction home. It's very important that you research the builder, their track record, their history of delivering the products that they do. You don't want to end up with a subpar product at the end or have many delays and inconveniences that just create the whole process not as enjoyable. So researching that or having an agent that can guide you on that is definitely beneficial. Number two of things not to do is not having a lawyer review the contract. So when you're buying pre-construction, builders typically have their own builder contracts. They're not like buying a resale. The resale, you have basically a standard contract clause that your real estate agent uses, while the agent's going to have clauses in there to protect your interests as well. But back to the builder side, the builder is going to have the contract and it's going to be in favor of the builder. It's never ever in favor of the buyer. You want to be sure to look through it, read every line, read what additional costs you're going to have at closing, etc., etc. Having a realtor help you look through that and point things out is useful, but at the end of the day, a realtor is not a lawyer. So have your lawyer review it, sign off on it, basically let you know what the pitfalls are and what the positives are, and then you can make a decision if you're comfortable with that and moving forward. Number three of things not to do. In Ontario, here we have a Carry-On home warranty. You're going to have a pre-delivery inspection. You're going to want to list all the things that need to be fixed by the builder in that pre-delivery inspection. So my advice is for the pre-delivery inspection, as long as it does not allow you to bring a home inspector, along for that pre-delivery inspection. If you can't do it, then at least go through the house thoroughly, point out anything that you want fixed or corrected before you move in. Sometimes they'll even do these repairs after, but it's best to do that as quickly as possible. And if you couldn't get that home inspection, the day you move in, get a home inspector in there, look the house up and down. He'll be able to see if there's anything that was missed, be able to note that for you. It's worth the $400, $500, $600, whatever it costs to have that done to avoid any issues down the road. You can get those listed and approach the builder as well as Carry-On if the builder is not going to fix it. Number four of what not to do is not considering the location. Location is very key, especially if you have young kids. You're going to want to possibly be near parks, be near a school, all of that. Is it facing a street? What direction is it looking out of? If it's a condo, what kind of a view do you have? All of those things you want to take into consideration, as well as what city and what area. You want to take all those things into consideration. That's going to work best for your lifestyle, or if you're an investor, what's going to appeal to the broadest audience of tenants, because you want to have the largest tenant pool you can if you are buying it as an investment. Number five is not getting a real estate agent. Benefits of having a real estate agent navigate you through the process is they've gone through this pre-construction process before many of the times. Now, there's a lot of agents that don't deal with pre-construction. I've never done a pre-construction deal before. I myself am around 10 deals so far at pre-construction as of filming of this video. I have knowledge. I've dealt with the builders. I understand the process, the ins and outs, what to do, what to look for, what questions to ask as well. The other thing is builders typically sell their buildings or developments in phases, and phase one is to family and friends of the builder. Phase two is then a pre-launch to their agents and brokers that they have a relationship with, that they've done deals with before. Myself have been able to get on a lot of those lists, so I have access to buy in a bit earlier, and the prices are typically lower. Phase three is the actual launch, and then phase four is the remaining inventory that's then blasted out to the public, and that's when the public has a chance to get in. Typically that phase is already at the highest pricing. You're going to be paying higher prices, and the most desirable units are typically already sold off in those prior three phases. Having a real estate agent is going to be very beneficial for you to get in and get that unit that you want to secure. Number six of things not to do is not having a good understanding of the closing process. So the closing process is much different for a pre-construction home. You're closing on a condo, you're going to have an interim period where you actually take possession, you move in, and then you're going to pay rent to the developer or the builder. until the actual closing, when all the units are done and the condo corporation is formed. That's when all your funds are going to be sent over to pay for the unit, as well as any additional charges on top of that, and you're going to be paying rent in that interim period. And if you're using this as a investment property, sometimes you can't rent it out during that interim period, so that's another thing you have to check out for in the wording of the contract. Another tip I'll throw in here is that you do typically, depending on the builder, have a 10-day cooling off period after signing the contract to have your contract reviewed, get over pre-qualification mortgage documents, etc. to the builder, and actually allow that deal to firm up. If you don't want to go through for whatever reason during that 10-day period, maybe you've noticed something in the contract you don't agree with or you're not happy with and you don't want to move forward, then you can do that. You can send a mutual release and get out of that contract within that 10 days if the builder allows. Now, some builders only allow 24 hours, more similar to a resale type of deal. It all depends on the builder. So just another tip I throw in there. Number 7 would be to not consider the resale value. If you don't consider the resale value, you're going to be paying over what it's worth at the beginning, and then by closing, it's still worth less than what you're actually paying for. You might run into issues with financing, and that is something that you don't want to do. You want to consider the value of what you're paying, what things are currently selling for on the resale market at the time, and is that money worth it? Usually you're going to pay a little bit of a premium for pre-construction, but if it's closing 3, 4, 5 years out, then you know it should go up a little bit during that time period, and a real estate agent can give you some guidance on that. But at the end of the day, the markets do go up and down. So I always say, if you're planning to hold long term, great idea. If you're planning on buying it, selling it right after, it may work, it may not. So those are factors you should consider on what's the resale value going to be. That ties into the upgrades. What kind of upgrades are you going to do? What kind of lot? What kind of view? How big is the balcony? How many bathrooms? How many bedrooms? You want to take all that into consideration before you make the purchase. Number 8 would be not understanding the financing process. So the financing process can be a little bit different. You do need to typically have a mortgage pre-approval at the time of signing. So you need to basically be able to afford that unit at the time of signing. A lot of people think they can just put down some money and then hopefully they'll qualify in 2-3 years time if they're buying a condo, and that's not always the case. You should get pre-qualified. You want to make sure you do that before even signing the document, because there's no point in getting into that 10-day period, finding out you can't qualify, and then going backwards from there. You want to definitely get pre-qualified before even buying, just like a resale condo. Number 9 would be not considering HST. With new construction, there's often HST, well, there's always HST involved. It's whether you are going to be paying in addition to the purchase price or is it included in the purchase price, and it all depends on what your use of the property is after the fact. If you're going to be buying it and selling it right away, you're not going to get the HST deduction, so you're going to have to probably be out of pocket to pay additional HST on top of what you paid. So it's best to talk to an accountant on the ins and outs of the HST on that. Definitely just take that into consideration. There is HST when buying pre-construction. If you want to have a consultation with me and discuss the ins and outs of pre-construction and answer any questions you have, definitely send me an email in the description below, and I'd love to set up a time to talk to you about that. Number 10 would be not budgeting for additional expenses. When you're buying a new construction, pre-construction, there's always going to be additional expenses. Sometimes you're going to have development fees that are going to be paid to help the developer with the development costs of sewer hookups, additional things like that. So those are things that you want to, again, look at the contract, make sure you know what you're getting into, what additional expenses will be there after closing. And you also want to consider what upgrades you might want to do. Usually you're out of pocket or paying 50% of that up front during the build out period before closing, what the property taxes are going to be like potentially at closing, what the maintenance fees are if it's in a condo. The other things people don't think about are appliances included? Washer and dryer included? Are you going to need to pay to put window blinds in all the windows? All of those different things, as well as do you want to fully paint the unit right when you move in? All those things you should consider and calculate into your closing cost if you're considering between buying a pre-construction or a resale for yourself, and as well timeline. When do you want to get in? What's your timeline like? Where's your life going to be at that point in time at closing? You're never going to know for sure, but if you have an idea of what direction your life's headed in, it's good to stay stay ahead of that and maybe buy a pre-construction home that is going to fit your larger family within 2-3 years time. Those are all the considerations to avoid these mistakes when you're buying a pre-construction home. If you're looking for an agent that deals with pre-construction, feel free to reach out to myself. My information is down below, or you can give me a text at 647-627-8192. We can set up a time to meet, discuss, look at some projects around that might be suitable for you. And again, my name is Nakkila with iPro Realty and the Green Homes Real Estate Team. Have a blessed day.